Hi everybody and welcome to Cotton and Chocolate. Marilyn here, and welcome into step 2 of our mystery quilt. Hopefully you've gotten going, you have your fabric, and you've done step 1 and you're excited to move on to step 2. I'm excited too. Oh, and by the way, I hope you had a happy Valentine's Day. I hope you did a little self-care. Now by self-care, I mean I hope you bought yourself a little bit of fabric. I did. And I hope you had a little bit of chocolate. I mean, that makes everybody happy. So now, if you didn't buy any fabric, I know where to go. Come to Cotton and Chocolate. We have a lot of fabric and a lot of new fabric. So come on in, and we have chocolate too. So taken care of. Okay. So let's move on to step 2. Now, with this video is also a link to the pattern, so you can download your pattern and print it out, but we would love you to come into the shop and pick it up also. Now with this pattern came step 2, but also they provided us in the pattern the cutting steps for all 6 months. Okay, so if you want to be a cutting craziness and you have nothing to do, then you can cut all 6 months ahead and be ready for the steps when we get there. But I will only be talking about the cutting for each month as we go, okay? So I'll talk about the cutting this month, but again, you'll see the cutting with the second page, okay? Why didn't we get that the first month? I don't know, but you got it now. Don't worry. Okay, so step 2 is the cutting piece and the piecing, and then a little bit of cross cutting. Okay, so I'm referring to that little guide I made where I put my fabrics out in the colorways for, you know, reminding myself which is my light, my medium, and my medium dark, and my dark. Listen, you can't mix those up. If you make a mistake and grab the wrong one, bad things will happen. I mean, not bad things, it's a quilt. I mean, it's not like, you know, surgery or something, you know, that you're doing, but you will get a little screwed up in what's happening. So make sure you do your guide, or if you need to put a little, you know, because they don't have the cutting now right here, but if you want to put a little note of what's what, you know, you can do that too, or put it on your step, you know, cutting for step 2 and re-put your fabrics out. Whatever you need to do to make sure you're doing it correctly, okay? So for my light, you need to cut 4 strips, and this means salvage to salvage, whether, you know, you have, now they're assuming that you have 42 inches of usable fabric, okay? So just going with that, but it's salvage to salvage, okay? So light, you need 4 strips, 33.5 inches wide of your light, okay, and 4 strips 2.5 inches wide. Now the next is my medium dark, which is already pieced into what we're going to be doing, but this is my medium dark, and I need 2 strips 7.5 inches wide, salvage to salvage, okay? And then my dark, which for me is my green, I need 3 strips at 3.5 inches wide, and then 4 strips at 2.5 inches wide. Okay, so there are your cuts, pretty straightforward. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of my cutting information, and now we're going to go to our piecing. So now I need to make, for step 2, I'm going to use 4 of my, let me get this over here, I'll get these out of the way. 4 of my 3.5 inch wide strips of my light, they say fabric 1, which is your light, and 4 of my 2.5 inch strips of fabric 4, which is my dark, okay, and piece those together to make V panels. And you're going to press towards your dark, which is your fabric 4, so you need 4 of those, okay? So 4 nice long strips, and this is going to be panel B. So I'll just put this to the side right here. And then the next thing you're going to be doing is taking 3 of your 2.5 inch strips of fabric 1, which is my light, and 3 of your 3.5 inch strips of fabric 4, and piece those together in your, so you're making 4 of these that you cut and 3 of those, and these are panel C. So panel B, panel C, just like it says right here in your instructions. And lastly, what you have left, these are just ones that I haven't pieced yet, just for cutting, are these big, big strips that you cut of your medium dark and your light. These big 7.5 inch ones. So 7.5 inch, and you only need one of these. This is panel D, okay? So you're gonna piece these together and you're pressing towards the medium dark, okay? So right there, pressing towards it, away from your light. You're only making one of these. So when I'm pressing, I piece this one and press, and then I add the second one. It's harder if you sew them all and then try to press it out. And then we're just gonna fold this up and set it aside. And now we're gonna be cutting. So first we're gonna be taking our panel B, which has the wider light one and the skinnier dark one. And these should actually, when you notice this should be 5.5 inches wide. So check your seam allowance to make sure that it's correct. 5.5 inches. So right here, and I have a perfect 5.5 inches. So now we need to cross cut this right here into 3.5 inch segments. Okay. Now when I'm cutting, I don't really measure from the bottom, and do not use your mat to measure. Your mats always aren't perfect. And also you want your ruler to compress the fabric so you get a perfect measurement. So the first one, since I'm not really straight off of here, I'll measure in a little bit, but I use my seam, seam here to measure off because I know that's straight. So here's my 3.5 here. I'll measure in the first one a little bit in, and then I can clean up the seam because it's probably not straight. I'll cut this here, and I'm right-handed, and close your blade, and then I'll turn it this way and then measure it off perfectly for 3.5 inches. And I measure it off straight here, and I'm making sure that it's parallel there and parallel here. Hold it and then cut it. And then I know that I have a perfect, oops, I missed it a little bit on the end there. Okay. So now I need to cut 48 of these at 3.5 inches.
That's a full 42 inches. Okay. That means you need to really be careful about squaring up.
So I need to be really careful. That would be a full 42, or I won't get 48 out of the 3-inch sections. So you do have to be careful about, squaring up here, meaning that I have a full 42 out of these these 4 sets. Okay. Now, if you don't have a full 42 inches, this depends upon your fabric and what the width was when you bought it, and you can't control that, but you do have to watch squaring up. And I do watch it when I'm, I do measure, and once in a while, if you get tilted, you have to square it up a little bit, but you have to be careful about how much you're cutting off. So if you're running out, you may have to cut another strip and make a little bit more and then save some of that for the next time. But you do have a little bit of allowance in your yardage for doing that if you run short. Now, some widths are 44, so you're fine. But some might be 40 after salvage, or 41, depending upon the fabric manufacturer that you bought from. So you really have to check that. So we know that some people were really close on that. So in any case, you need to get 48 out of your strips. And then on your next cut, your panel C, which is this one, which is the wider one, you're going to cut 2.5 inches. So again, you need 48, okay? And once you have these cut, you're going to put these together with the darks in opposite directions, and these should nest. And if you, if you're comfortable, you could hold this on your machine, but oftentimes you're going to want to have a nice thin, I like the glass head pins, and I would put my pin right here to hold it in place to make sure they're nested perfectly, and run it under your machine, okay? And repeat to make 48 units. Now they don't, oh, they say to press towards the C unit, and that would be your smaller unit. So when you open this up, I have one that's already sewn, and then press towards the C unit, which is a smaller unit. And you're going to be making 48 of those. So you're going to leave this alone for later. I don't know what. You know why? Because it's a mystery. We don't know, but you'll be using this at another time. So just fold this up and save it for later. You'll make all of these units, 48 of those, and we'll see you next month for step number 3.
I have homework.
Yeah, everybody has a little homework. Okay, see you then. Thank you.